Hello, everyone, and welcome. Going to just allow just a few more seconds for everyone to trickle in. Thank you for joining us today. A couple of friendly faces already joining us. Okay, well, as they come in, we'll just get started. So, welcome this morning to our webinar, co-sponsored with North Coast Electric on Finish Your Projects with Epic and RIO. For those few of you that might not know who Opto 22 is, we're a 50-plus year technology innovator. We make products in America. We're a manufacturer of industrial control, hardware, some software, open source solutions. The fact that we are made in America has likely not been more important than it is now. Here you see our factory in Temecula, California, where 100% of Opto 22 products are made. It is somewhat open factory, and by that I mean if you ever want a tour of our factory, just get in contact with me here and we'd be happy to arrange that for you. We also have premium factory training where you can come, and the factory tour is part of the training itself. So here with us today from North Coast Electric is Jeff Engels, Automation and Control Specialist. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself and who North Coast is?
Yeah, North Coast, we are based out of the Pacific Northwest. We cover Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. My territory is basically Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho. Like Renee said, I'm an automation control specialist. I'm based out of Yakima. And we are not only an electrical distributor, but we also want to help solve our customers' problems when it comes to automation and control. So, and we've done some great stuff with Opto RIO. We've used it for gathering legacy data from like sensors and all that for like wastewater ponds, and got it back into their SCADA system and into the cloud for analysis on that. And also did a pumping application, just a simple pumping application with the Opto RIO using Node-RED. I built a little logic using Node-RED. It's not for a critical application, but it's just to control some pumps. That's about all I got, Renee. So
Great.
I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for North Coast for helping to put this together today. So this is a vast oversimplification of what the Epic is, and we're going to talk about the Epic and the RIO. Essentially, you have a ton of on-premise applications, whether it be something as simple as Excel to more complicated, maybe you're starting to use AI in part of your manufacturing process. Well, all of those live out here, live closer to the office, to headquarters, than they do to the actual physical plants. However, the Epic is perfectly suited to be the industrial edge components because we talk to all of the legacy devices that you're going to find in most every manufacturing application, whether those be sensors directly turning pumps on and off, to maybe more sophisticated sensors like that have IO link capability. Those come directly into our unit. Whether it be PLCs that have been sitting there even from way back in PLC 5 days, and you name it, we can talk to those systems, even the old like Profibus and other protocols. So essentially, this is an oversimplification of it. If we expand that out a little, we're going to see that in that drawing, what makes it possible is that we have all of these different software components living inside the Epic. Not only that, but because when we first designed the Epic in 2018, we had cybersecurity in mind. We addressed the two key elements that separate IT and OT safely. And that would be network segmentation. So we have 2 Ethernet ports on this unit. And at the same time, we don't allow for default username and passwords, because those are the 2 main reasons that you get breached. So with these Epics being able to live in industrial plants, because we are an industrial 50-plus industrial company, and adding all these software tools, many of them are open source, now we can directly communicate with, let's say, Snowflake, with AWS, with different historian visualization tools like a Canary or a Grafana, Or of course, Ignition. Ignition is your SCADA platform that you can use for controlling a vast variety of different physical locations. So speaking more about the software that's included in it, I really want to approach this from a practical point of view. You can you can talk to manufacturers where there is a deep 6-7 figure technical stack that you're going to have to adopt, absorb, pay for, then pay for monthly fees for, or you can use a lot of the tools that are already out there. With having a conversation yesterday with one of our systems integrators that is an expert on Grafana, it was really clear that there are already several tools out there that are adopted by industry that are exactly what you need to build your application. And several of them are already integrated into the Epic platform. So going again, these are the different software tools that within the Epic, because it's industrial, allows you to safely, because of the network segmentation, to be that edge device to integrate all of your different locations. So here is a more graphical representation of the different software that is in the Epic. So we can have simple groov manage, and I'll show you what the groov manage screen of this Epic here. This is a real Epic that I have here over my shoulder of what that groov manage page looks like. We have different methods of controlling it. Our pack control, but we also have codices, and there are other methods as well as using C++ or Python or other different programming languages that you can install directly on the Linux OS. We have visualization built in. This is the groov view screen that you see here. We have Node-RED, Ignition Edge, and a variety of other different tools and software features that are only going to grow here, especially in the next couple of months. Watch for some announcements of the different software that we're including. But besides the Epic, we also have a RIO. And I have one here. You may be wondering, how is it on if you have no power to it? Well, all of our RIOs are PoE. So they allow, in this case, I'm connecting my Epic to other parts of my network through a PoE cable. And in this diagram, how that's represented is we have an example on the Opto 22 website where we have these RIO, specifically the EMUs, the energy management units, connecting directly with compressors, two of them connected one connected each to two different compressors, and then a normal RIO that's just counting energy pulses. So we're able to push that data into AWS using their IoT core and SiteWise in that case. So those are the very briefly, and we're purposely going fast because this is being recorded and we'll be sharing with you at the end. But for a quick application of food and beverage, for example, let's look at the Alta refrigeration case study. And this is on our website. Hundreds of these Epics installed in each one of these containers. They're using the Epic, artificial intelligence, MQTT, and C++. And here is how they use the Epic. You see the same Epic that you have here mounted there. These are your different IO modules that you select depending on what different instrumentation you're working on. So going back, as you can see, this unit for industrial refrigeration, portable industrial refrigeration, going to have all types of sensors from compressors to temperatures to pressures are wired directly into this Epic unit. And then they're chosen, what they chose for their software tool was C++ to do all of that different configuration. So if you pay attention to just one slide the entire time, I want you to focus on this, because just like for Alta, just like for your wood processing plants, just like for your different Silicon Valley semiconductor fab machines, just like your remote pumping stations, just like this is, instead of being your problem in the past, this is probably your setup now. And by that I mean that for your cloud application, or even your on-premise application, for it to be able to start something, monitor energy, monitor how many pieces are being counted, you have to go through all of these steps. And you'll see the red unlock here, many of them unsecure. So you have all this added vulnerability, all this added complexity, all of these different experts you're going to have in the room. And the entire point of using the Epic RIO is one, it's secure, but also that it simplifies it. So here you have the Epic. So just using this unit, and I'll show you an example how this unit is connecting to a cloud application directly here from my home office in Las Vegas. So this Epic, and we'll use this same one in this in this diagram, communicating to that cloud application, but then also talking to different energy management units, PLCs, sensors. We have temperature sensors here in my office, but this is where we see the majority of growth in the Epic and RIO platform, of people that have these automation systems or have these machines, have these balers, or they'll have these lathes, or they'll have these kilns, or they'll have these gigantic machines that come with PLCs already inside. And there's absolutely no easy way to aggregate that data until now, or put them on an easy screen like you'll see on the front screen of this Epic until now. So here's another simplification of what that would look like if you were using a cloud scenario, but let's break it down to just one unit, to just one location. So in this case, you can look at what if we had a SCADA, and I'll show you a SCADA view, an ignition perspective SCADA view, just like we have in this diagram. So with that, I am then interrogating the data that is being published to an MQTT broker that we have in our AWS instance. It doesn't have to be AWS, it can be Azure, it can be a variety of different cloud providers, but with AWS and Azure, we've covered the majority of our clients. So at that remote location, let's take a lumber yard or a lumber processing plant as an example. At that remote site, you're going to have an Epic, and yes, let's say you want to start really simply. That Epic's going to talk to a Modbus device that's maybe doing some energy management. Maybe you'll want to do your own energy management. You'll have your large machine that you'll want to put an EMU onto. It is plug and play from this unit to a PoE to wire these RIOs to get that data to an Epic. From that point, because the Epic has cybersecurity tools built into it, you can close it off or have because we have LDAP configuration, have your IT team configure this unit for your domain and configure it so it's only having establishing outbound communication to your MQTT broker in the cloud. And from that point on, in our case specifically, we're using Ignition Cloud Edition instance where we then subscribe to those tags and then publish it using Perspective. So I'll show you what that looks like. And that is like we have here. So this is literally, and you can go to this. I will go ahead and put this. I'm going to regret this, but I won't show you the special button yet. But you can go into the chat. You can go to this website, and here you see this is our Ignition Cloud Edition instance on AWS, can be on Azure as well. And on the left, you have different epics that are configured like we showed you in this architecture, except instead of having one, you have multiple. So here in Las Vegas, another in Temecula, another in Australia, another in Spain. And each one of those can have their own different legacy PLCs at those remote locations. And all you need to make your data uniform across all of these different sites, across all of these different architectures, and even across all these different levels of automation in one, with several of our customers, we've seen one factory completely manual. So they're using clipboards, they're using just individuals that are processing different pieces, metal pieces, for example. And in others, you have some really state-of-the-art machinery that you're processing, of course, thousands of times more widgets. But by putting an Epic on top, you give it that uniform view, and you're as long as you organize your how that data is going to be published and then accessed, that's how you can then create that screen like you see here. So returning to that, it's the Epic in that middle piece between IT and OT. So you hear the term IT and OT convergence. And it's because of the software tools that are already built into this unit that allow you to have that data exchange with, let's say, your AI application in the cloud, or let's say you're wanting to VPN. There's a good example of going right now to different junior colleges, technical colleges throughout the United States, in which they're buying these Epic systems because they'll have PLC training courses, but the students still have to make the trip to campus in order to do their PLC programming class. And now by using the Epic, which also has codices, can be programmed like a PLC, but in addition to that, allows them to then port forward. So you can have put all of these unsecured traditional PLCs connected to the same LAN as an Epic and then have them remotely accessible. So that means now that student could be at a Starbucks, they could be on a break at their job and do their remote programming for those PLC units. That would take, and the cost for that, OpenVPN is free. Of course, if you're going to do it for multiple users, you pay a modest fee for it. But all of those tools come with the Epic. We do not have a SaaS model. We do not have any annual fees that we charge you. We do not charge for updates. We're going to have a huge update here this summer, of which we won't be charging for, adding some incredible IT features to the Epic. So making your now 7-year-old Epic as if it just came out of the factory. So the point is, with the Opto philosophy of products, with this Epic, it comes with all of the software tools that have been validated by industry, don't have any additional costs or recurring costs, and something I haven't mentioned yet, that our support is free. So you can go to our chat windows, you can email us, you can even call us. We're getting very few calls as compared to when I started in the late 90s, where it was mainly calls. But anyway, we'll move on from that. We also had the RIO, like I explained here. So this is the RIO for very simple applications. As you can see, it has less software, although it has all the software that's on the RIO can be put on the Epic. So it has a subset of all the software that the Epic has. And of course, it is a single core, and we'll get to hardware details in just a little bit here. But it has just a single core, where the Epic has the dual core, and the RIO, of course, a little less memory than the Epic. But just with this unit itself, you can still communicate to Rockwell PLCs, Siemens PLCs, Modbus devices, IO Link instruments, but also directly to hardwired traditional 10 different devices, whether that's a digital input, digital output, analogs, thermocouples, and that nature. So you still have that capability. And like we'll also show here in a little bit, we have one that is specifically for energy management, that you put your current transformers directly into this unit, tap onto your voltages, and you could get a complete 3-phase power factor calculation automatically generated. And we even provide the faceplates for you to use with your SCADA platform. So comparing the two, Epic and RIO, here we have a very simple breakdown of how you can use Epic, or when to use Epic and when to use RIO. The biggest differences will be how that the RIO can run ignition edge only, while the Epic can run full ignition, and the HMI capabilities. As you can imagine, with a single core, visualization gets tough. So that's what dropped off of what's capable. Also HDMI, video again, and independent networking interfaces, although I'm hearing rumblings of some changes there. So going on to a specific project, what does that look like? So your panel probably looks something like this. And what we're telling you is, with the tools that are available now, you can keep this and then also now migrate to more advanced tools that include cybersecurity, that include Node-RED on board. And I'm speaking the same Node-RED that you download off of the website, not a special version of Node-RED. You can have local visualization. You can have Ignition Edge running directly on these units. You can have your own custom program running directly on these units. You can have them scan for, you can also have them segment your information to create more sophisticated, more secure architectures. Now, what about your old WinCC program? How can you do that? Well, we have partners like Corso Systems, for example, that has that ability to convert it to Ignition, or in this case, the customer decided to do it themselves and put it on groov. And again, this is included on what the Epic is. Another simple system of what that looks like, another simple example of what that would look like is a different traditional system, but migrated fully over to Epic. And as you can see here, you're going to have of course, the PLC logic converted over, but now you have all those other tools that we talked to, the cybersecurity tools, pushing directly to the cloud, because of Linux, having on board maybe Python and C++ programming capabilities. MQTT directly on the unit. Not only that, but also this can be an MQTT broker. So as we saw in the energy management diagram, you can have it be a concentrator for other RIOs or Epics in that same configuration. So in this conversion, we'll see this, the traditional SCADA view that they had, and now on just an example one using our groov. Now, mind you, for you SCADA users out there, everyone has a different SCADA style. So if you're looking for full traditional SCADA, what you're going to want is an Ignition package or something similar to that. But for those that loosely call something SCADA, what really is a true HMI with control, logging, local logging, user account handling, you have it already built in with the Epic. So here's yet another example of that. In this case, it was a Yokogawa system that was converted directly over to an Epic. And as you'll see with they'll have their SCADA screens. And just to show you an example, they didn't want to show what the latest one looks like, so they gave us just a quick example on what it would look like with the groov. So you're going to have in your facility, unless you're completely new greenfield, you're going to have all of these types of sensors and PLC already at your location. You're going to have pneumatics, you're going to have flow meters, you're going to have PLCs that probably no one's ever heard of or haven't been heard of in decades. Well, with RIO and Ignition, we pride ourselves in being able to talk to all of them, to be able to build on this legacy, that if you already have this technical debt of these units and your budget or your task is to now put certain data into KPIs, into a Tableau screen for the CEO so they have real-time production data, you can do it now without having to rip the entire system out and replace it with an entire from a single vendor's technical stack. So you don't need to do that anymore. The world is a lot more practical. And the reason, again, behind that is because of the software tools, going back to the screen, that are available on this unit. So let's get back to every Epic has this exact same homepage. The RIO homepage looks like this as well. This is Groove Manage. From here, I can go and configure I can influence most of the basic configurations. So we can look at something like our network. I won't go in there in case some of you are really good. Let's see. I do it we can look at network status. I can configure VPNs. I can configure different network segments of what IP address is going to be versus the other. I can ping from here, trace route. I could also, I think the most used is probably the IO one. So as you'll see here, I have 4 different modules over on my Epic rack. And I didn't create this web page. This is automatically generated. So you could look at this last module. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can take off one module. And in that, we're going to see that module slot go empty, because this Epic is smart enough that it's communicating with the backplane and scanning what modules are there, ensuring that they are represented on this Groove Manage screen. So as we put it back up, we'll see it go from red over to blue. And then now we see that it's being recognized again by Groove Manage. And we're able to go in and see what the different statuses are of that IO. If we're trying to look at wiring as well, we can manipulate the different, see if I have the alarm here, can manipulate different IO points directly from here if you're doing a type of commissioning. And there's a great blog post of showing how quickly you can commission just from the front plate of this unit. If you can come to this unit and immediately see how you're supposed to wire all of your channels as well. So that's pretty useful, and that's probably the most popular button on an Epic system. But we also have systems for data service of configuring the built-in OPC UA server, configuring MQTT, both string and spark plug. And of course, we also have in our controller section where you can choose whether you're running the pack controller runtime or your code assist runtime. And of course, we have an ignition button there. I'm sure if someone saw there what version I was running, so don't look at that. And of course, you have groov view of what the HMI what the HMI is, and similar to what you see in that front screen, that's what's being loaded here. So just wanted to get to this because it's easier to explain that through Groov Manage. We saw that we could have pack control. We had groov view. I didn't click on node reds. Sorry about that, but we can go to it now. But the point of it is all of those features are in an Epic system. Well, Epic system has, we saw the IO, we saw the web-based HMI. We didn't see the HDMI. You can just plug in an HDMI monitor through an HDMI cable, and boom, you have that same visualization on a large touchscreen. Large touchscreen or monitor. I've even plugged it into a projector, screen projector, just for kicks, and worked just fine. VPN capabilities, network segmentation. So again, whatever project you have, you can finish that industrial project with an Epic or a RIO. If you have a lot of physical IO or a lot of visualization or a lot of data demands, you're going to want to go with the Epic. If you have something that's just incredibly repetitive and simple, then you would want to look at the RIO to see if that's something that you would entertain. And we're looking at thousands of these units. For one good example would be for utility customer looking at just maybe 100 data points, but across 4,000 different locations. So that configuration, the wiring is the same, the configurations are the same, and because of the RIO versus the Epic, of course, there's a proportional price difference between this single core unit and this quad core modular unit. So what the Epic hardware is you see it here. Direct spring clamp terminations to the IO modules. If you're using IO link, you're just going through the Ethernet port. LED diagnostics that you also have a touch sensor here that will impact how you're viewing your different screens or how you're configuring them. These chassis, and we'll look at the chassis and the pieces of this Lego block of a Epic rack in just a couple of slides. So you'll see a Linux-based OS, dual gigabit Ethernet, and you saw there the -20 to +70C. We'll see in a little bit, and the HDMI cable to a separate screen. In the several applications, we've had customers that have a separate PC as their operator workstation. By adding an Epic, they've replaced their operator workstation because the Epic, as you can see, has 2 USB-A ports as well, in which you can plug in a mouse here, keyboard there, monitor there, and now you have an operator workstation that your operator can't load, WhatsApp on, can't load any separate apps because it's closed down. It is an Opto 22 Epic. So how the pieces fit together is pretty simple here. We have 2 CPUs for an Epic, PR1, PR2. Only difference is memory. That's it. We have 3 power supplies, AC, DC, and a pass-through. We have 4 different chassis, a chassis 0. So it's just sitting, and that's the most popular configuration. So it's just sitting there, chassis 0, piece, power supply, CPU. But if you're going to be adding modules, we have a 4, 8, and even up to a 16. So taking you there, what that unit is, this is the most popular way to get started, either because people already have a PLC that they already have the IDE for, they already have their experts for. Well, It doesn't matter if that's from a Rockwell, Siemens, Opto, Schneider, whoever it is, you can put this on top, and there are multiple ways of being able to connect to that space. So that's that's what we're going to show you with that. The going back here to this C store, so to this convenience store, to give you that example, the pieces that you need to make this are simple. So you buy an Epic, or could even buy a RIO. So you buy an Epic or RIO. There are no additional software licenses. There's no SaaS model. There's no recurring cost, nothing. You buy an Epic or a RIO, you're halfway there. The other half is you can have Ignition, in this case, Ignition Cloud Edition. So you could go into your Amazon store, you can go into your AWS store and search for Ignition Cloud Edition and have the capability to bring that up. So in that architecture that we showed before, it's going to look something like this. So in that, the Ignition Cloud Edition is running here. I'm talking to it. I configured it. I have an Epic. With that hardware and with that software, you have enough to be able to build this screen and as many screens as you'd like for different applications, for different locations, for different projects. So it really is that simple. And anyone that tells you need these tall and expensive stacks, the lowest cost for an Ignition Cloud Edition is like $1,100. An Epic, this typical system configuration, I was looking at a typical unit that went out the door yesterday for a customer was about $3,000 to $4,000 just because of the different module configurations that they had. But one thing too is for Opto 22, all of our pricing is on our website. And remember, I said we were an American manufacturer. Well, here's an Opto blog post of how those tariffs are going to affect you as an Opto 22 user. And because we are made in the USA, because we're a company of engineers for engineers, we've taken the time to test every product, manufacture every product in the US, but also do some things that are considered crazy, especially in the just-in-times, when the just-in-time days were incredibly hot and heavy, and that we were, that we pride ourselves on being able to go have 30 days worth of raw stock, 30 days of products and work, and 30 days in inventory. So with all of these systems, the fact that we can manufacture in the US, the fact that we're a privately held company, all allow us to make these changes, to be very nimble in all the changes that are coming to us. Here you get another example of Ignition Cloud Edition version of Ignition Cloud Edition window, in which you'll see we had, they just took the video off, just my luck. Opto 22 system, but let's go here then instead. If we go to demo.groov.com, and you can all go there, let me put the link, username, and password in the chat. And if you go to building and compressor energy, for example, you're going to see that which of the two generators is on. So let's look. So it's not compressor 2 that's running at 0 amps. So today we're running compressor 1, and we see 50 amps here that's being monitored in a 480 unit. And we see almost exactly when the lights were turned on this morning and when compressor 1 started operation. So this is all on our GroovView screen. With that, we're coming up close to the end of this webinar. Just wanted to show you what the simplicity of being able to use an Opto 22 system to create your project. So with that, I will see if Jeff has anything to add, or see if we have any questions from our attendees today.
I don't have anything to add, except for on the RIO, you can also get code assist put onto it.
Oh, thank you. It's a great, the exactly what Jeff said. This RIO, all of our RIOs, in fact, you can put code assist directly on it, and that's a popular thing for many. One popular thing I've seen recently, Jeff, is that though customers will buy the EMU, because they have the budget to buy an energy management unit, but now they've introduced code assist into their plant. And now that EMU that's just supposed to be doing energy management is pulling in tags via Profinet from this area, Ethernet IP from this other area. It's kind of an interesting way to complete two projects with one product. So we have a hand raised by Giovanni. I think you can type it into the Q&A there if you have it. Feel free to do that. Now, mind this webinar will be recorded as well. You're going to have all of the links available as well as the username and passwords, and any follow-up information or details. You can do that directly with me or with Jeff Engels here. So I'm going to give Giovanni a few more seconds here to ask the question. And if that's not going to go, well, maybe he stepped away. All right. Well, with having no questions, we're going to hope it wasn't too much of an oversimplification. It was meant to be a simplification of it, but hopefully that was enough for you to chew on and inspire you to look at more Opto 22 case studies and potential solutions for your facility. So with that, I thank you all for attending. You'll receive a copy of this recording. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, North Coast Electric. And we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.
Right. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.